What's up, everybody? Welcome in. It is once again time to visit with our friend, Brian Baldinger. You can find him at Baldy NFL on the X Twitter machine dealy, and you can find some awesome breakdowns that he does. I'm Jeff. That's Aisha Morrison, and we're here to party and talk Cowboys football and whatever else we want with Baldy. And first, I got a bone to pick with you, Baldy.
What's that?
The Eagles are winning all their football games, but it sounds like they might hate each other, and I see you doing a breakdown trying to get them to unlock the offense and get the ball to A.J. Brown, and I want you to know I just don't appreciate it.
We don't at all.
Okay. I mean, these receivers, you're watching that Monday night game. I know it was like a disappointment at the end and all that, but you watch, the Bengals get the ball to, Jamar. From the very first play of the game, they put him in the backfield and they threw it to him. The first run of the game, we'll hand it off to Jamar, and we'll just feed him all game long. And we'll live and die by the whole thing to the point where they throw the game winner to him at the very end. He touched the ball. He threw it to him 18 times. That's every wide receiver's fantasy, but it doesn't mean you're going to win a lot of games. And so the Bengals are in that situation. But in Philadelphia, there always seems to be some level of discontent. Even when things are going great, there's some level of discontent.
It's on par with how the city is.
It's regional.
How the fans are like.
It's regional. They did this.
They're very contrary.
No, look, from the snowballs being thrown at San. I remember one year we were playing at the Vet, and I was playing for the Eagles, and we were 4-0. We got off to an unbelievable start, and we throw an interception in the first quarter of the game.
Boo.
And the fans just started, the boos came from the very top of the stadium, down on us, we were the worst team in the NFL. And I'm looking around going, we're 4-0. One mistake and they were already chasing us out of the stadium.
So I hesitate to ask you about any Cowboy players this week because last week we talked about DeMarvion Overshown and then he got hurt. So I don't want to ask you about any other players. So I'll just stick with the one that we already talked about.
Hurt me, man. That hurt. I watched that play so many times. Mazzy had stepped on his foot. It got trapped. And then the avalanche fell on him. I felt terrible. He came back from a major injury a year ago. The injury looked awful. He's having this breakout season. Those kind of things, I love the game of football, but those kind of injuries, you saw Mike at the end of that game. Somebody that's put their heart and soul into it, and he's having a great year, and then it just ends so suddenly like that. That play hurt me.
Well, and Overshown, from everything we know about him, seems like the type of guy that if it's at all possible to become that player again, that he's the sort that can do it. But can you speak to a young guy 2 years in a row, you're starting to see that success after injury? You take another one, just how freaking hard that's got to be, body and brain.
Well, it's hard because there's always doubt, until you get back out there again. And you don't know. They say that there's 2 ligaments torn. So it's going to be a long rehab. And then you're always questioning, am I going to get all the way back? His speed and burst was elite, and you watch him and it just flashes, and you don't know if you're going to get that sort of elite suddenness back because that was a big part of his game, changing direction, just breaking on receivers, catching the ball, it was elite. So you just don't know, and you won't know. He won't know until, probably every bit of a year from now until he gets that opportunity again.
Yeah, Baldy. Obviously, with the loss of Overshown, you're going to have Maris Lewifau step in this week. I was looking at Bryce Young, and one thing I wanted to talk to you about was his development. I think that in the NFL now, we are a bit microwave with how we like quarterbacks to, attack development. And with him, you're starting to see him manipulate the pocket. You're starting to see his footwork match the throwing motions. You're starting to see him throw with anticipation. What do you see from him and this offensive line that seems to have improved as well that stands out to you?
Well, let's go with the offensive line, Aisha, first, because they invested heavily in their guards.
Yes.
Robert Hunt, Damian Lewis, and that Robert Hunt is a Pro Bowl guard. I said last week going into that game against Philly, I want to watch, and I'd pay, StubHub price to go watch Jalen Carter and Robert Hunt get it on. And it was a war. It was a real war. Jalen is a beast. Zach Martin will tell you he's a beast. You just have to watch him. But Robert Hunt has been good. And up until a couple weeks ago, Chuba Hubbard was, after, Derrick Henry and Saquon, it was Chuba Hubbard was the third leading rusher. Now Josh Jacobs jumped up, but he's having a good year. But if in that game last week, Aisha, like honestly, like Bryce throws this ball, to a Leggett in the final minute, and it's at the goal line.
Yeah,
And
you can't throw
honestly,
it any better.
like they win that game right there on that play. And so, Thielen's back out there. Leggett's played good. They run the ball pretty well. Since Bryce has gone back, as a starter, like he's played pretty well. And he doesn't look anything like he did a year ago where he didn't look like he belonged, or at the start of the season where you thought this is a mistake. Like he's playing much better football right now, much better decisions. And so they had every bit of a chance to win that game at the end last week.
It was heartbreaking.
So this is going to be, at least according to efficiency numbers, the Cowboys and Panthers is number 31 versus number 32 in run defense. Is there a chance that both teams never throw a pass?
That'd be shocking in today's world. But I think if, Rico's had 2 great games in a row, Chuba Hubbard's a hell of a back. Might be the best way to keep the other team on the side of the field, control the clock, shorten the game. I could see both these teams. I think that's what Carolina has been doing best. I've done a lot of breakdowns on Chuba, but, I like Brock Hoffman. He seamlessly went from guard to center last week, played really well. So even despite the injuries, Dallas' offensive line continues to play well and block the run pretty well. So I would say that would be a big feature in this week's game.
Yeah, I mean, and one thing that stands out with Chuba Hubbard is obviously the ability. You talked about the guards, the interior kind of being the strength of Carolina's offensive line. This gentleman also has the ability to bounce to the outside and make you pay. One thing that the Cowboys have struggled with defensively is running backs with receiver-esque qualities and defending those. I'm kind of curious, Baldy, do you think that Carolina, even though they don't do it as much, you think they might take on some of what they saw Cincinnati do and they've seen a couple other teams do, passing out the backfield, trying to attack this Dallas secondary and this young linebacker core?
Definitely. I mean, I would do the same thing. I mean, Cincinnati started the game. They checked it down to Chase Brown all game. They used Jamar in that situation last week. So that's one way to move it, but it's part of what Carolina does. They want to get Bryce Young completions. What's the easiest way? Those tight ends, Jatavian Sanders, like they're pretty good too. So, I mean, I think they've got an assortment. I think they've got a creative play caller and head coach. And so I think they're playing to their strengths. Getting Thielen back really helps. He's still a great route runner. And so they've got 2 legitimate receivers that you got to pay attention to. They're not Jamar Chase. Nobody else is in this business. But I can see them playing a similar style of attack next week, and you got to account for Bryce Young as a runner or as a guy that can extend plays.
Which is what Dallas has struggled with as far as contain. And that's something that DeMarvion Overshown helped a lot with, is that he would kind of clean up their lack of contain. How do you account for losing someone like that is able to spy, that's able to come and make plays behind the line of scrimmage?
Well, Micah, that's Micah's game, is to run and chase, and so anytime he's on the field and the quarterback is running and he's chasing, the quarterback's not going to win that battle too often. I know Micah didn't have sacks, but he forced 2 holding calls in that game on Monday night. And, he chased Joe Burrow to the sideline a few times, a couple, incompletions as a result. He's a factor. But when you had DeMarvion and Mike out there, that was a problem for quarterbacks. But look, Tank's got to step up. Odighizuwa's playing better. Lee Fowle's going to get a chance. Kendrick's probably played his best game last week, I thought.
Thanks.
So, it's always the next guy up. But are they going to miss the speed and the ability to chase like DeMarvion? Yeah, they're going to miss that.
I don't remember if I mentioned it to you last week, but I talked about it on our show last week. I enjoy in every game when the quarterback has his first Micah moment where you can see it doesn't make sense in his head that this guy is here or that he's moving that fast. And it's like, what is happening? And I just always think those are fun moments in the game. So I look forward to Bryce Young's Micah moment.
Well, he's going to get one. He'll get one for sure. Micah, obviously he missed a month, so his numbers are down. But, he wants double-digit sacks, not at the expense of anything else. But, the numbers are important. He's in a contract year, all that stuff. All that stuff is important, when you go to negotiate. So he wants to get those up, and this would be a good weekend. I think, honestly, personally, I like Taylor Moton and I like Icky personally, but Icky struggles. He struggles, like he's laid off the ball sometimes. He struggled in pass. I would expect Micah to be over there a bunch, and that's the backside of Bryce. So I expect him to come from that side quite a bit in this game. And, the best way to get after the quarterback is to stop the run. So it's got to start up front first.
Baldy, we appreciate you. We appreciate the time, and we will talk to you next week. How about that?
Let's do it next week. Let's maybe do it after a win. Let's.
Well, we don't have to.
We can. As many wins as possible.
We don't have to win. We could chase draft picks. Either way's fine. Either way's fine. Either way's fine. All right.
Winning is more fun, especially during a holiday season.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Baldy.
Bye.
You got it. Talk to you next week.
We all silly like the mayor.